Hey gun people, that's a pretty good case. Now I just did that video on bad elk from the 1900s, the Supreme Court case where everybody's saying you're allowed to shoot a cop for an unlawful arrest. And I said that you weren't. So I know I'm going to have all the trolls here saying, see, you can shoot a cop and get away with it. You can, but this is different. This falls more in a category of jury nullification. So what happened here is Mr. Ray Rosa, this is the different one. Okay, yeah, here we go. Ray Rosa. So Ray Rosa is a man, I think they said he was 30 or something. He testified against a gang member in 2001, and there were several drive-by shootings directed at his home. So this guy had a legitimate fear for his safety. He cooperated with government, mistake number one. He testified for the government, probably with the promise from government that don't worry about it, we'll protect you. Just come in and testify against these gang members. And then once government gets your testimony, you're on your own. They don't tell you that until after you testify. But I digress. So this guy already had a heightened sense of awareness in his home. Well, his nephew evidently had a warrant for cocaine or drugs or something, and his nephew was living there. So the police decided to do a no-knock raid warrant on his house, which I'm against no-knock warrants. They should be very, very selective, and normally we only do it when it's, I mean, we know everybody's in there and got guns and they're going to be reaching for guns. I mean, that's the only time you can do that, because if you knock, then they'll grab their gun and they'll shoot you. So you need surprise. And even then, there's other ways. Just because you can get a warrant doesn't mean you have to get a warrant. I can sit on a house, I can cut your electricity, I can surround your house and make you come out. I can wait for you to go to the store to go buy your dope or guns or whatever, you know, barbecue chips, whatever the hell you want to go buy. There's other ways to get people out of a home. When you enter someone's home, that is the most likelihood that violence is going to happen. And for some reason, government thinks that's the only time that we can arrest people. We can't arrest them when they go to court. We can't arrest them when they're out running around. We can't arrest them when they're driving. We have to wait till they're in our house so we can kick their door, burn their house down, blow the damn door up, and throw in flashbangs. So the SWAT team threw in a flashbang in this guy's house at, I want to say, what time did they say he did it? Was it 1 a.m.? It was in the early morning hours. So obviously they had night service on the warrant, because most warrants are served between either 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. or 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. So anything after that, and the reason why those time limits are there on warrants is because the likelihood that a person living at home would think his house is being invaded increases after 10 o'clock at night. So cops are supposed to serve warrants, you know, between 6 a.m. and 10, I think is the time frame it was in California. But anyway, so they throw a flashbang in this guy's house. It blows up. And what is a flashbang? A flashbang is a grenade that goes in and it causes a very bright light flash and a very loud high-pitched sound. And the sound disorients you and the bright flash blinds you. And that's the purpose of it. And normally it was used in SWAT teams when you're entering a room or clearing a room where you know that somebody is armed and waiting for you. And that gives you a split second to disorientate them so you can enter the room and take up positions and then engage your targets, or if they engage you or challenge, whatever. So that's the way they originally designed. Now, like everything, every stinking patrol cop and meter maid and parking enforcement people want their own flashbangs. So this SWAT team goes in and flashbangs his house. Absolutely unnecessary. If you read some of the reports, they did no surveillance on the house. They did not even know that the person they're looking for wasn't even in the house. So, I mean, and that's one of the main things you have to do when you're serving an arrest warrant, is you have to have a reasonable belief that your subject is in the house to prevent things like this. So they kick the door. The nephew ain't even there. Mr. Reyes is in bed sleeping, thinking the gang members are blowing up his house again. So he grabs his gun and shoots 3 cops. Well, they charge him with shooting 3 cops. He shot 2. One of the cops was shot by another cop in a panic. Another cop shot him in the leg. And his attorney made a good point. They charged him with the cop that got shot in the leg by the other cop. They charged him. They didn't charge the cop that shot him because of his panic. And it was okay for him to panic and accidentally shoot the cops. And Mr. Reyes testified he didn't know they were cops. He said, I couldn't hear. He goes, hell, I couldn't even see. A damn grenade went off in my room and I couldn't see or hear. I was disoriented and people were coming to my house, so I grabbed my gun and returned fire. To me, that's very reasonable. And to the jury, it was reasonable because the jury acquitted him. And you don't get a whole lot of acquittals. Normally, one juror will go, I think he's guilty. And you'll get 11-1 or 10-2. But to have all 12 jurors say, absolutely, this guy is not guilty, man, that's a spanking for a DA. DAs hate acquittal. Not only do they lose the case, they lose the ability to refile the case. Pretty much the jury tells them, you suck, you brought us a shitty case, you wasted our time, this doesn't even deserve our time, we're voting not guilty. And you're not getting nothing out of this but a bunch of wasted time and a bad name. So, and the jury did this. They totally acquitted him. All 12 jurors said not guilty. Unfortunately, he spent almost 2 years in jail waiting. They charged him with attempted capital murder on 3 counts. And the day of the trial, the Weasley government DA dropped the capital murder crimes and only went after him for injuring public servants. Now, to me, that is freaking criminal because he would not have spent all this time in jail had it just been injury to a public servant. But what did they do? The DA says, I'll charge him. I'll keep his ass in jail for 2 years. And if he won't take a plea deal, then we'll just make him stay in jail. And then the day of the trial, I'm going to drop the capital murder charges. This freaking DA is a piece of crap. The system's a piece of crap. This guy got off. Now, I'm not saying this guy's an angel. They were supposedly, stealing electricity. They had their electricity turned off and they hot wired. And I've seen this on quite a few homes that we do warrants. You go in there, they got electricity, and there's no electricity place. You check out their fuse box, and they got this big old cable wire where they've actually spliced in to the main electric without the meter, and they bypass the meter and they get free electricity because it's not metered. But we've also found quite a few dead people trying to do that, and they get electrocuted, and we show up and they're smoking on the side of their house because they got fried. So there's risks, but there's free electricity involved. So, what's the old Bob Dylan song? When you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. Anyway, I digress. So this is a great case. Now, let me explain jury nullification. Jury nullification is a concept that says jurors, we the people who sit on a jury, even though we know a defendant is guilty, and it's been proven 100% that he's guilty, we as jurors can send a message to the government and say, we're voting not guilty. We don't want you charging these BS crimes. We don't want you wasting our time. And we're not only going to not let you convict this guy, we're going to make sure that you can't charge him again. Any acquittal where everybody says not guilty, that is a spanking to government and the DA, and this office got it. I'm not sure. I read what city this was in. Yeah, it was in Corpus Christi. So it was in Texas. I'm telling you, man, Texas, the law enforcement's getting out of control. I mean, it's just crazy. I can't believe that we're in Texas and we can't control our public servant law enforcement officers better than we do. They're all be turning into the freaking CHP and LAPD in Texas. Anyway, great little article. Ray Rosa's his name. What did I Google to get that? I think I just did Ray Rosa. And it's on quite a few different articles. Great case. Good gun case. Good case to cite. But what I don't want is people to come here and go, see, you can shoot a cop illegally. That's not what happened here. They were going to charge this guy and put him in prison for the rest of his life. The only thing that saved him was a reasonable jury that said, screw you, we're not convicting him. Has nothing to do with the law, has nothing to do with Supreme Court saying, oh, this guy was, if there was ever a case where a guy was defending himself from an unlawful arrest, this guy did not have a warrant. He was in his home lawfully. He had his guns legally owned, and his house had been shot at by gang members. And the cops threw a freaking grenade, flashbang, boom, bang, Batman shit in his room, blew his eardrums out, blinded him, and he ended up shooting in self-defense. If there was ever a Supreme Court case that justified shooting cops, this would have been it. Guess what? There was no case cited. His defense wasn't the Supreme Court said he was justified. His defense wasn't anything to do with legal. His defense was, hey, I didn't know there were cops because they blinded me, and if that's what a flashbang does. A flashbang is designed to disorient so I can't hear and I can't see. And the cops testified, hey, we identified ourselves after we threw the flashbang. Who freaking cares? The guy who's in there can't hear you. You said the whole reason of throwing a flashbang in there is so he can't hear and see. And then you say, well, you can't blame me because we identified ourselves. Well, what is this, bizarre? I got a bunch of clown cops in Texas now running around saying, we shot his head off, but then we tried to explain his Miranda rights. He didn't answer, so we thought he waived it. You freaking idiots. I mean, I just can't believe that the cops are trying to say we identified ourselves, it's not our fault. I'm just glad the jury saw through it. Not only did the jury see through it, all 12 of them saw through it and spanked the DA and government. And hell, I wish this DA would, I hope this guy gets a lawsuit and gets money for unlawful detention for all these years because he was imprisoned falsely. And it was BS. And the fact that the DA dropped the capital attempted murder charges on the day of the trial absolutely shows malice and forethought in the DA's mind, because he could have done that any time during his 2 years if he didn't think he had a good case. He waited till the day of the trial because he knew we don't have to keep him in jail anymore on these trumped up charges because he's in jail for the court and we'll find out at the court, so it won't matter. Absolutely outrageous conduct from the DA and the cops. And again, I'm not saying this guy's an angel, but he won and the government lost. And I think it's a great case. All right, we'll end that there.